Take a breath and settle in. Welcome to Metaphysics at the Movies, the podcast where film meets deeper meaning and every scene becomes a doorway to insight. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing someone who doesn't just watch movies, he reads them. Reverend Rich P. is a Unity minister, speaker, and teacher of practical spirituality, known for blending real-life wisdom with metaphysical truth in a way that's grounded, accessible, and powerful. Around here, it's not just about what's happening on the screen. It's about what's happening within us as we watch. So whether it's drama, comedy, or action, Reverend Rich P. helps us uncover the spiritual principles, the hidden patterns, and the deeper messages woven into the stories we love. Get ready to see movies differently, and maybe even see yourself differently too. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to Metaphysics at the Movies, where we look beyond the scenes and storylines to uncover the spiritual truths hidden in plain sight. I'm Rev Rich P, and today we're diving into that powerful film, Pay It Forward. Let's take a breath and settle into this moment, because this movie is bigger than kindness, bigger than doing good deeds, and this movie is really about consciousness. It asks one simple question. What happens when one person decides to interrupt the cycle of pain? And honestly, that's metaphysics. Because every thought we think, every word we speak, every action that sends energy into the world, the movie reminds us that love moves, healing moves, and compassion multiplies. And so does hurt. Trevor's idea wasn't just clarity, it was spiritual circulation. So today, let's break down the deeper lessons hidden inside the story, see what this movie teaches us about energy, healing, purpose, and the power of one person choosing differently. So a little bit about the movie beforehand. If you haven't seen it, like I always say, there are spoilers up ahead, so I would hit the stop sign here. Go ahead and watch the movie if you haven't done so. But if spoilers don't bother you, if you've already seen the movie, then we can go ahead and move forward. But the one thing I will tell you about the movie is this movie hit me so hard when I first saw this years ago that when I started a network marketing business, a lot of people were like, oh, pyramid, whatever. But you know what I saw? I saw Pay It Forward. I literally taught the people on my team that it wasn't about what I got from their sales or whatever. It was about how do we pay this service forward if you truly believe in the service. And I do. And I still believe in the service. Haven't been in the business for a bit, but that's okay. There are a lot of wonderful people out there still doing it. And I still believe that if they look at it as I can help 3 people and those people go out and help 3 people, it's the same principle. And that principle can be put to anything else. So if you haven't seen the movie, like I said, basically it's a child who's given an assignment to come up with something to change the world and put it into action. Well, he comes up with what he called Pay It Forward. He does a favor for someone, and instead of that person paying him back or doing a favor back for him, they're to pay it forward to 3 people. And the focus of it is that it exponentially will cause people to do favors for other people and to continue to serve other people, that it will actually change the mindset of the world. One of the greatest lines I love in that movie is when a homeless person and he was also a drug user, that the main character helps, is walking and he sees a young lady about to jump off a bridge. And he looks at her, he goes, look, I owe someone a favor. She goes, well, not me. And he turns to her, okay, then save my life today. And offers to take her to coffee to give her a chance to speak. Imagine if everybody had the same idea rather than being different. So let's go ahead and jump into the metaphysics now. So let's look at number 1. Consciousness is contagious. Trevor starts with one simple act, helps 3 people, then asks them to help 3 more. That's spiritual law in motion. In Unity teachings, consciousness reproduces itself. Whatever we consistently put out into the world expands. If we're always focused on fear, fear spreads. If we're always focusing on anger, anger spreads. But hope spreads too. This movie reminds us that one healed conversation can ripple further than we realize. Every room you enter, you bring energy with you. The question is, what kind? And the spiritual principle here is what you send out multiplies. And the practical takeaway, pay attention to the emotional energy you leave behind after conversation, posts, and meetings and interactions. See, this one hits close to home because I remember, this had to be 1983. Tells you my age. I was 13 years old. My grandmother had just passed away. And, I was brought into societies. I just started my teenage years. Buying into societies, if you did so much for people, people should be there to do stuff for you. And I remember sitting in the funeral for my grandmother and remembering all the people that she helped and all the people that, were in her life and all the people she would drop a dime in a minute and drop everything to go help. Yet when I sat in that funeral home, her casket in the front, and there was maybe 8 to 10 people in that whole church. And being Catholic, that's really nothing. That's about a pew and a half. And later on in life, I had finally opened up to someone. And they said to me, you're looking at it from a narrow window. I said, look at it this way. Those 8 people that made time to be there went out and did something for someone else. And that person probably went out and did something for someone else. And so on and so on. But go back to the beginning where your grandmother did something for someone. And it started a movement for people she didn't even know in this lifetime. So take this one very seriously. What you send out multiplies. Pay attention to the emotional energy you leave behind after conversations, posts, meetings, and interaction. Make sure it's something that can touch generations from now, all because you took the time to love someone and bless them with a word, an action, or even a thought. Let's go ahead and jump to number 2 here. You do not have to be powerful to make a difference. In the movie, Trevor is just a young kid. No money, no status, no influence. Yet he becomes the spark. This matters because many people delay purpose while waiting to be more. And that more we're waiting for can be in so many different ways. We're waiting to be more healed, more successful, more confident, more spiritual. But spirit works through willingness. The movie reminds us that transformation often starts with ordinary people making uncommon choices. How many times have you done something just out of instinct and it blessed somebody so heavily that they can't forget it? And you immediately were thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, I'm not that. Obviously, if you were called to do something, there's a purpose to that. So our spiritual principle here is divine ideas do not require perfect people. And our practical takeaway is to stop feeling fully ready or stop waiting to feel fully ready before you begin helping, creating, speaking, or serving. A lot of times a simple cry for help is a calling to you. So choose wisely. Number 3, hurt people still carry divine potential. Almost every adult in this movie is carrying some type of pain. Some of them are addiction, some of them were fear, some of them were abandonment, and some of them were regret. And yet beneath all that pain is still possibilities. This is one of the deepest metaphysical truths in the films. People are never just their wounds. Unity teaches that divine exists within every person, even when buried beneath trauma or bad decisions. Trevor sees beyond behavior into possibility. That's spiritual vision. A while ago, with some events in my own life, I became a trauma-informed certified coach. And the reason for that was to build upon my coaching because, yes, I can be a relationship coach, a regular life coach. I can be a spiritual coach, a ministerial counselor. But the problem comes down that if I can't see past that person's trauma, if I can't see that the reason that they're acting that way or they're responding a certain way is that it's a trauma adaptive behavior, which basically just means that it's their ego or their, self-imposed mind trying to protect them. So, of course, not a bad thing. It's just misinformed. And a lot of times we're holding on to stories we're still telling ourselves after something that happened many years ago. So when we can get past that and understand that there is a powerful person behind that story, when we can get past that and say, you know what, I understand this may have happened. I know that that was hard to get through. I know that you were taught to believe this, but what if you reframe your perspective and look at it from this point of view, that there's a hero behind that story. You just need to slay that dragon. So spiritual principle here is that Christ's presence still exists beneath human pain. And try seeking people through possibility instead of only through their current behavior. One of the powerful lessons I learned on my own journey was that trauma is the story we keep telling ourselves about the event that happened. When we change that perspective, then we can change our own worlds. But what if we do that with other people? As they act, that we stop, we pause, we breathe, and we say, you know what? There's still a divine possibility or potentiality behind that behavior. Take nothing personal. Take nothing to heart, and never assume that their behavior is based on them trying to hurt you or doing something. Take it at face value and go ahead and make sure that you move with the right motion. Trust me, it's a tough movie to get through. Once you get to the end, it will break your heart. But it is so important that a simple process like this, we still got a few more metaphysical facts that we're going to do here. But as always, if you want to know more about what I do, just hop over to revrichp.com. There's been some changes to the website, including the shop has been expanded, but I am here for you any way you need. If it's coaching, if it's just speaking, if you need me to do whatever. The whole point here is that each one of us reach one of us. And if we can help each other, why not do so? So let me know if there's a way I can help you as we move into principle here, or metaphysical point number 4 here, which is receiving is also spiritual work. One hidden lesson in the movie is how uncomfortable people become when kindness shows up. Some people know how to survive. They do not know how to receive. That's real life too. Many people block blessings because deep down inside they feel undeserving. Metaphysically, receiving keeps energy circulating. When we refuse support, love, or healing, we interrupt the circulation flow. I have been guilty of this for so many years, and it took an old senior minister of mine, Reverend Diane Sickler, who realized what I was doing and gave me a book by Catherine Ponder. I implore you to read all her books in her series if you have any challenges with prosperity, but it was called Open to Receive. And the problem was I love to give. I love to give people stuff, whether it was in service, material, monetary, time, it didn't matter. I love to serve. But when that person or someone else came along and said, well, Rich, let me give you a little something, or let me do something for you. No, I was so used to surviving on my own that I'd be like, no, that's okay. Until it was actually brought to my attention that by doing that, I was stopping their prosperity, because prosperity circulates. So pretty much as they were trying to be prosperous and giving, I was blocking that giving and not allowing them to give. So now I still struggle with it sometimes, but if a person says, I want to give you something, I remind myself it is not in my wheelhouse to stop a person's abundance. Receive it. And what I do with it afterwards then becomes my choice. So our spiritual principle here is receiving is a part of divine circulation. And our practical takeaway is allow yourself to receive help without guilt or over explaining. So let's go ahead and hit number 5 here. Small actions carry spiritual weight. The movie never shows massive world leaders changing society. It shows regular people making human choices. That's important. Sometimes people underestimate small acts because they are chasing dramatic impact, but consciousness shifts moment by moment. A conversation can save somebody. Encouragement can interrupt depression. Compassion can soften years of pain. Never underestimate the spiritual power of showing up fully present. The whole point here is now that, as he says in the movie, you never see a world leader wave his hand and now we have world peace or something to that nature. What we have is a shift of certain people, simple people, people like you and me, just going out and saying, hey, let's have a conversation. Let me get you a cup of coffee. Hey, I understand what you're going through, but let me at least be a listening ear. That's how we change the world. One person at a time, one act at a time. Energy attached to intention carries power. And choose one intentional act of kindness each day this week. Just one act. Don't judge it. If your heart feels led to do something, then go for it. All right. And now let's go ahead and hit principle number 6. Healing requires participation. Trevor doesn't just talk about changing the world. He actually acts on it. Metaphysics is not about passful wishing. It's embodied consciousness. Prayer matters. Meditation matters. Affirmations matter. But eventually spirit asks us to move our feet too. Faith becomes real through participation. In fact, the reason I love our unity principles is because of number 5. It's not enough to know the truth, but we have to live the truth we know. So most importantly, as we talk about demonstrating, as I'm using movies to show you ways that metaphysics work through our lives, it's not about just listening to it. That's cool. Yeah, I understand that. It's about going out and demonstrating what you've learned, even if it's just one of the 6 principles today. So the spiritual principle here is demonstration completes spiritual understanding. And our practical takeaway, take one visible action toward becoming the energy you keep praying for. So Pay It Forward reminds us the world changes through conscious people making intentional choices. We're not looking for perfect people, not famous people, not people who have had it all figured out, just people willing to become carriers of compassion. So here's your homework this week. Before every interaction, ask yourself, what am I sending forward right now? Because energy echoes. And maybe the healing somebody else needs starts with the presence you bring into the room. So again, thank you for joining me for another episode of Metaphysics at the Movies. If this episode spoke to you, share it with somebody who needs encouragement right now. And you can always subscribe at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And you always can visit revrichp.com for journals, coaching, merchandise, and more tools for practical spirituality and healing. So as always, I leave you with one big instruction, and that is take that truth and walk with it. Peace and blessings, and so it is.
And just like that, the credits start to roll. But here's the truth. What you saw in the movie is already playing out in your life. So the question is, what are you choosing to believe? What role are you stepping into? And what truth are you ready to live? That's the work. If this episode spoke to you, don't just sit with it. Walk with it. Apply it. Live it. Let it move through you. And if you're ready to go deeper, more teachings, tools, journals, and ways to activate this in your everyday life, head over to revrichp.com. That's where the conversation continues. Until next time, keep watching, keep awakening, and take that truth and walk with it. Peace and blessings.